Vanda ma'am, go ahead. We are ready.
Yeah.
Good afternoon and a warm welcome to the webinar on how to train your mind to push boundaries and power your success. It is my pleasure to welcome Mr. Akash Mehta, the speaker for today's webinar. Mr. Akash Mehta is a British Indian entrepreneur and social media influencer. He graduated from Imperial College London in engineering and has worked in cosmetics, fashion, and luxury brand industries. Currently, Akash is the founder of Fable and Mane, an Ayurvedic-inspired hair wellness brand. He also has a digital agency, Akash Agency. Akash has been sharing his marketing expertise at some of the largest conferences and universities around the world. He's also a TEDx speaker. Welcome, Mr. Akash Mehta.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. So, yes, should I begin by explaining a bit about myself, or should we start doing some questions? What's the best way to begin?
So good morning, Mr. Akash.
Good morning.
And good afternoon from this side. I'm Yogesh. And it's a pleasure to have you with us today. And in this crucial situation, really your words will matter a lot for us, will mean a lot for us. And our students are eager to listen you, take your learnings,
Perfect.
implement in their life. I'm very much thankful to our student Kevna, through which we reach to you. And we are having pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you so
So
much.
I request you to please take further.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the introduction, and it's a pleasure to be here speaking to all of you. I would love to just first, before I go into the topic, explain a bit about my journey and what I've done in the last couple of years, and then give some advice and tips, and then I welcome any questions as well at the end in due course. So my name is Akash, and I actually started my education in engineering. At the time growing up, I was very good at math and physics. So my path sort of that came around without me realizing was an electrical engineering path. And I studied at Imperial College London. However, during my years there, I really didn't really know if engineering was for me. And I think many people have gone through that moment of not knowing if their career path is their future path. So I ended up having to really take a big moment to understand during my university, is this something I want to do for life, or is there something else beyond this? So I managed to understand that learning doesn't stop at university, learning continues no matter where you go in life. So it made me a lot more calmer to realize that after my university, I can still try new things that perhaps I'm not educated in or haven't tried, but still succeed. But it's about taking all your learning experiences you've done in your life and how can you use them to better you as a human and you as an individual. So although I realized after my 4 years of engineering that I would no longer pursue an engineering career, I was very grateful for those 4 years because it did train me and teach me a lot of who I am today. But without realizing it, during my engineering degree, I was also really much interested in being a singer. So I was, after lectures, I would go to the studio and I would sing a lot, record my own music. And I've had some songs that have got millions of views all over the world. So I started to gain a social media following. And without realizing over time, my social media following started to become quite impactful. And I started to get brands talk to me to say, oh, we're very interested in your social media presence. Would you like to promote my product? And I think that's when the word influencer comes in today, where a lot of influencers exist. But I knew I didn't want to be just a social media influencer. I wanted to work in business, and I wanted to have my own business one day, and I wanted to work in corporate. So I managed about 6 years ago find the connection between working in corporate and also social media. And I started as an unpaid internship in digital marketing, first in Burberry, and then I went to Estee Lauder companies. But within 1 month, I tried to convince them to understand that they need some young talent to grow their social media presence and their digital marketing. And I managed to achieve the youngest ever manager role worldwide at 21 at that time, and looking after social media accounts for Europe, Middle East, Africa, and UK for Estee Lauder companies. So that was my first experience in digital marketing. And it was quite scary because all my friends, when they graduated, they all went to banking jobs, finance jobs. They were on very big salary jobs. And I went straight to an unpaid internship without any career path. But it just shows to prove that if you do something that you're passionate about and you're eager to learn, then the world is your oyster. Like within 1 month, I managed to get the youngest ever manager title, good salary. And that all came down to just being naturally very not necessarily confident, but very eager to learn about digital marketing. And I realized I already knew quite a lot because of my own social media following. So the smart thing I did, I think I advise everyone to do, is you should have your own playground to your job. So I basically had my own social media account that I could test and learn digital marketing strategies and then bring them into my business and into my work. So I had a sort of like a practice round with my own account. So then I worked there for around a year and a bit. I absolutely loved my job there. But then Dior in Paris, they got to know about me and they wanted me to move to France to head up their influencer social media side of things for Dior Global. So at that time, it wasn't something I was necessarily looking for. A moving country, leaving my family, it was quite scary. But at the same time, I knew it was a once in a lifetime opportunity. So I took the chance to leave London and I moved to Paris. And then I started around 3 years and a bit, I started to work at Dior. And it wasn't easy by any means. There was a lot of ups and downs, a lot of drama, a lot of politics. But overall, I managed to learn so much during my time there about myself and also about digital marketing that I think really, hopefully today, have made me a much stronger individual. But I really made sure, and I think I advise everyone who's looking to potentially go into corporate life, is you always stay true to being an entrepreneur if you are within. So I went into these big companies not to stick to what my job was, but how can I make my job bigger, better, more innovative? I wouldn't ask for more money, but I would ask to do more work. And I said to Dior at that time, I said, I want to come in, I want to do more work, and I want to do more stuff as long as I can deliver what was initially asked for me. So every time I did something well, I would say, great, let's do something more. And I think that mentality was quite lacking in these big companies because people got quite comfortable. People didn't necessarily want to do more than they needed to. So I think I wanted to really change the way entrepreneurship can be not just on your own company, but you can be an entrepreneur within another company. And today I really feel that's a very positive and promising way to look at entrepreneurship as a 360, not just your own business. And actually during my time there, I managed to get a Forbes 30 under 30 accolade, which I thought was I was very humbled because I didn't think that Forbes would give those accolades to people working for big companies. I thought they wanted to only give it to people who have their own successful companies. So I think for me, it really made me understand that my dream of being an entrepreneur within a big company succeeded. And I invite everyone to do the same wherever they go, whether they go for their own company or they work for someone else. Always strive to innovate and always strive to do more. And one tip is I always made sure I had a weekly meeting with the top management, the GM or the CEO. And I said, every week, this is what I'm doing. And then I always, at the end of the meeting, it was around 7:30 in the morning because they're very busy. And I had to find a time and I had to show my worth to say, I know I'm too junior, but can you make the time to see me once a week? Because I want to innovate in digital, which is a very big growing sector for a brand like Dior. And every week I would come with what I did the last week in terms of what succeeded, what's the recap of the current activations, and what new idea I have. And maybe 8 out of 10, they would say, yeah, it's not for us, don't do this idea. But I would come back, and eventually if one idea was taken, then I knew that I changed Dior in some way. So, you know, it's about, you have to create those opportunities inside. It doesn't come to you. You got to make them, and you got to really work hard and hard each day. And sometimes you got to work at home. I slept sometimes 4 or 5 hours, but I never once complained, because the joy of learning and growing is, I think, the best gift in life. And that's why I feel like it doesn't stop at university. It continues in your career and your path. But one thing I made sure I said during my work life is, age is nothing but a number. If someone said to me that I was too young, and many people did say to me that, oh, you're too young to be a manager, you're too young to manage people. And I managed people that were way older than me. So it was something that age initially was a big barrier for me. I felt that maybe I needed to wait a bit more time. But then I looked at my work and I said, but why am I being ageist? Why am I doubting my own ability because of what society has put on an age being a big barrier to entry? So I try to educate people to say, hang on, age is certainly nothing but a number, but age is not linear. It's not time dependent, where the more longer you work, the more experienced you are. For me, experience and age comes in a very sort of wave-like motion. In 1 year, you could learn a lot more than someone else, even if you're 10 years younger, because your rate of learning might be different, or your experiences might be different. So for me, I didn't want anyone to feel that my age was like a big barrier. So I tried to say that if I heard my age being mentioned in a negative way, but not my work, then I would quit. So I was quite strict with certain rules I put on myself and others to make sure I was strong enough to survive a very difficult industry. And I'm very glad I did that, because it made me be taken a lot more seriously, and it made me fight even harder to be heard, even though I was very young at the time. So that was all of that. And then I think there was a point where I said to myself, when I worked for big companies, that it's like university, right? You're always learning. And for me, working for someone was a way for me to learn and grow from them. And if I stopped learning or growing, then I would quit and I would go to the next job, because I took it like university, where you don't want to repeat the same year. You don't want to do the same year again and again and again. So why should you settle for the same in business or in your working life? You should always make sure each year is different and you're learning more. You can still stay in the same job, as long as you're allowed to innovate and grow within that sector and that field. So I challenge a lot of young people today is, don't settle to just say, when people tell you, oh, you have to spend at least 3-5 years before you prove yourself. Absolutely not. If you've proven yourself in the first year, you should then strive to go to the next level, because that's how we grow. And we learn the most when we're given more opportunities. So if I wasn't given the manager title, I would probably still be a very junior manager or an intern. I wouldn't be where I am today. So the opportunities that were given to me by me growing and moving forward and progressing quicker made me stronger and made me hopefully do a lot more good in the world as well. So I think if you want to be an entrepreneur that gives back, that does good and changes the industry, changes the brand, you must strive to propel yourself as quick as your ability is able to. Obviously, it depends on how much you can deliver the work. If you still feel not confident, or you feel like you haven't learned enough, then you might want to take another year. But if you've graduated, you go to the next year. And that's very, very important for me. But yeah, so I felt during Dior that I eventually stopped learning, and I reached my peak of digital, and I wanted to learn out of digital. I wanted to learn more about supply chain, logistics, finance. There was a lot more things I wanted to learn. So my sister came to me and said, look, we have this idea. Growing up, my nanny used to come from India and bring all this ashwagandha, dashmul, all the oils, and she used to hair oil every night while telling us Indian fables, as you all know. So hair time and story time was really like a thing growing up. But in the Western world, and also in India, but definitely in England and in USA, we don't really take a lot of time for our hair, and there's no Indian hair care brand really that's brought into the world. And for me, the best thing about hair care comes from India. Like the Indian hair is the strongest, most beautiful hair, stemming from the Ayurvedic natural ingredients. So we wanted to bring that kind of, my grandparents have all passed away, but I wanted to bring their memory of them in a brand and continue the legacy of sharing the Indian beauty secrets to the whole world to enjoy. So we created Fable and Mane. And at that time, I still was working at Dior because I said, you don't need to do one thing in life. You can do two things. You can do three things. You don't have to necessarily quit something to pursue the other. But we have 24 hours in the day, and the day is a lot longer than we think. So I started to work at Dior, and at the same time in the evenings, I used to work on Fable and Mane. And all my holidays I used to take to go to the labs in America, build the brand. But when it got to a point where it was so much work and I had to completely dedicate myself to Fable and Mane, that's when I decided to quit Dior, because also I stopped learning at that point in these companies. And I was just traveling around the world. It was very fun and glamorous, but there wasn't anything deeper than that for me. So I had to leave. And then Fable and Mane was my full force baby, and we continued working on it. We managed to launch in Sephora in the USA, which is it's our first retailer, and with the first Indian hair care brand and first sibling founded brand in Sephora. And now I'm really proud, like it's doing super well. It's my main mission is to bring it to India, but with COVID, we were really delayed. So we're speaking to Nika, and we're going to launch it a bit later this year. But I want to bring the Fable and Mane kind of power to the whole world. But at the same time, as I've always been someone who likes to do more than one thing, I'm very impatient. I like to do five things at the same time. It's something I think my engineering degree taught me, how to manage time management of many projects. So I'm pretty good at managing, like having different topics in the day that are very not in the same sector, but I love doing that because it makes my brain able to kind of have a break on every little thing I work on. So my CEO at Dior at the time wanted me to consult for Dior or continue working. So without realizing, I created my own agency for Dior, and then more and more clients came on. And now I've created a good full force digital agency that's focused on conscious branding for sustainable digital marketing. So all about pioneering digital for the future and how to do it cost effectively, but also to make an impact in the world. So we now have 5 to 6 clients in the luxury division, from jewelry to hotels to now beauty with Dior. And that's pretty much where I am today. And now in the last couple of months with coronavirus, I decided to share some more. I used to do a lot of talks. I used to go to like TEDx and Vogue and Forbes summits. And then I thought, I have my own Instagram following, and I would love to just speak to my own followers and people that I have connected with over the years. And doing live streaming before would have been something very scary to me, but now I've been doing it every week. And I think that's the beauty of the COVID period, that we're able to really virtually connect with everyone. So I'm really delighted to be here today. And that's just a bit of an overview of my story, but I would love if you have specific questions, or I can answer any of your questions as needed.
Hi, Akash.
Hi,
I welcome you to Navratna University webinar.
Thank you.
So listening to your journey was really, really beautiful. And like, I have always followed you, but I never did really know the story behind your success and everything. So thank you so much for sharing it with us. So now I have some questions that my friends had asked, and my teachers and everybody. So I would like to ask you all those, and then last 10-15 minutes would ask if attendees have also some questions. You focus a lot on mindfulness and doing yoga and everything. So could you please tell that what really mindfulness is? Like, when do you practice at your workplace or while you are studying or whatever? So just something about that.
Absolutely. So I think there's many definitions of mindfulness, but for me, I think it's always dependent on how you perceive it. Same as meditation. Everyone has different ways to meditate. I would separate meditation and mindfulness from my explanation, but for me, they're both complementary. So mindfulness is being really aware of your own mental state and your own mind for me. So I've managed really at a younger age to understand that the only person who can bring you down when you're down, or who can make you, suffer or not suffer, is yourself. And it's how you control your own mind. And I think it first starts by being aware of your emotions and of your well-being. So everything I do, especially in business, I always kind of talk to myself, and that's how I do mindfulness. So I always ask myself questions. And by asking myself questions, I'm sort of therapizing myself, and I'm doing my own therapy. And I'll give you an example. When I fail, now I smile. I'm very happy about it, because I start to realize, okay, I'm very upset in this moment, but in a week's time, I'm going to be less upset. And in a year's time, I'm going to forget about it. So right now I have a choice. Do I get rid of my failure and my sadness instantly, or do I wait until a week? No, I want to get rid of it as soon as possible. So I start then questioning, how do I get rid of it? Let's suppress that thought. Let's bring back positivity, and let's focus on the benefits of the failing, the fact that I'll never make the mistake again, that I've learned a lesson. So that is a process for me of mindfulness, where I've gone in and I've been very mindful about that specific experience. But the other way that I like to do it is, so I am trying to say I'm mindful in every decision and business experience I have, success or failure, confusion or certainty. I'm very mindful. And I think that's what brings a lot of success to entrepreneurs. And I call it empathy mapping. So you really want to empathize with every business decision, every client you have, and every relationship you have in work. When you stop empathizing, you stop being mindful. So always put yourself in people's positions and your own position. But meditation also is very important, because it allows you to have that look in life, I think, and allows you to really reflect and be able to ask those inner questions. So for me, I meditate usually. I stopped making it into a routine. Before, I used to meditate every morning for 10 minutes or before I go to sleep. Now I kind of meditate when I need to. So when I'm a bit stressed, or when I did 6 hours of meetings, I close my eyes and I just meditate for 5 minutes, and then I go back to work. So I can kind of now meditate on the spot, but there isn't a definition of meditate. Sometimes I meditate and I always think while I'm meditating. So surely people say that's not meditation. Sometimes I meditate and I'm like half asleep. To me, you have to find whatever meditates for you. But the idea for meditation for me is just your mind is relaxed and you're allowing yourself to think not about the stresses of today, but a bit more internal. Yeah.
Thank you. I would also like you to tell us something about how did you end up having the only Indian in the Forbes 30 under 30 list? Like, I know a bit of that story, as I attended your the online lectures on marketing, but I would like everybody to know about it.
So I think it's like, it's so in Forbes, you have certain lists. You have like the Europe, USA, and Asia. So I think in the Europe one, which is the most, you can't go more than this. So I can only apply to Europe. It's just a shame, but most entrepreneurs in Europe are not in. There's not as many Indian today, and it's something that I'm trying to inspire. Hopefully, a lot of my friends and families and people to say, you can be an entrepreneur even if you go into the corporate life, because a lot of Indians here, they end up going into either like law, engineering, medicine, etc., or they go into working for big companies like finance companies, etc. But very few start young on their own business for some reason. I don't know why. So I want to say, like, I got the Forbes, but I was one of the first to get it in a company, not for my own company. So you can still be innovative, entrepreneurial within your own company you're working for, but you just need to make sure that you have the ability to try new things. And I think usually by having good relationships with the senior board or the CEO is the best way, because then they give you the power to do that. But it was a very interesting process because I didn't expect it. I didn't even know about the Forbes until the day. So they shortlisted me and they said, look, we think you're a potential candidate, da 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 da. And then I filled out another form. I gave in my photo, and this was in like November. And then in March, April, when the list came out, that I got an email that the list was announced, and I was like, oh, okay, I didn't get it. So I didn't even I didn't even care about it. And then I was walking to work, and then I was like, let me just see who made the list because I'm curious. But I was a bit, not sad, but I was a bit like not bothered. And then I saw my face and name, and I was like, they never told me. Like, well, how can I be on this list? And I didn't get an email. And then later the day they told us, but I think they wanted to keep it secret. But it was very cool. It was very, very cool.
So one of the incidents you would remember for a whole life, that how did you end up in the Forbes under 30 list?
I know it's cool because then I went to this Forbes 30 under 30 like party where all the people who got Forbes 30 under 30 that year got to meet together in London. They flew all over the world, and I've really felt like a nobody there. Like people were like, one person was like, oh yeah, and I developed a company doing cybersecurity for missiles, and now the Spanish government have hired me for $1 billion. Like, you know, and I'm like, yeah, I just did some influencers at Dior. So that's I don't necessarily feel like I deserved it like some others, but I think in the media marketing field, hopefully, yeah, I was well deserved it.
So Akash, you have been an entrepreneur at such a young age. Like we are going to graduate next year, and I'm sure like 50% of people my age would be really confused on what career path do they want to choose. So like, how did you know when you started your own brand, Fable and Main, and then Akash Agency and everything? How did you had that clarity that yes, this is what I want to do, and leave the corporate at a point and then give everything to your own child?
Definitely. So the first thing to know is you will never ever know, and you'll always change. Number one, like, and I'll tell you my examples, but that's something to just calm everyone down to say. I mean, I knew. I remember I left university. I had no idea what to do, and I took an unpaid internship. And that was my first step. So, not knowing is part of life, and that's okay. The unknown you can't control, but that's the beauty of it, because it comes to you magically. It comes to you more specially, and you end up. It's like buying a house. You never really buy a house truly happy, because it's not perfect when you're buying the house. But when you start living in it, it becomes then the perfect home, right? So for me, it was the same. Like I never had dreamt about creating a hair care brand. Like if I wanted to create a brand, it would have been maybe a luxury fashion company or even skincare or fragrance. But hair care was not something that was my passion. But I ended up falling in love with it as you start working more and more in building your brand. And when you start seeing the demand is there, the interest is there, and it can be a success, you also start becoming more involved in the success and in love with the fact that this is a successful business. And I think that's when you see today many successful businessmen, for example, like Lakshmi Mittal, who does steel. I don't think he would ever say, I love steel. But he loves the idea of the business, right? And usually when you end up being the CEO or very high up, you don't really know about that product. You just know about the numbers and the operations anyway. So definitely is something I want to say is the unknown is there, and you never need to worry about where to start. But there's some tips I would say to help you in terms of how you fall in love with your own business and how you start creating it, is you do have to think about what's your story, what makes you unique, and what can you leverage that many people can. So for example, one thing many of us today can say is we're all Indian. So maybe creating a brand that's inspired by Indian secrets or Indian traditions, etc., is the best thing. And then the second thing I would say is also making sure that you really focus on also creating a brand that you feel has a white space in the industry. That, for example, today there's not many people doing it, because I think then you know that business could have a specific space. So for us, we know that there was no one really doing Indian hair care in the Western world. So we really wanted to bring that and own that market. And then the third thing I would say is definitely making sure that you have the right business partner and also financial stability, because it is important. But money shouldn't be a barrier to entry. You can always find money from a bank, a loan, a grant, an investor, a partner, working really hard. So that's something to remember, like make your idea the focus, make your business proposal that's authentic to you, and then worry about the financials and the team, because that comes secondary. I think you're on mute.
Okay, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Yes, sir, please. I have unmuted you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I am not a student at Navratna. I work for Navratna University. And our objective, obviously, in life is that how do we make our students successful? Our objective is how do we make them influencers? So our objective is not that Navratna University becomes great, that it will eventually. Our objective is how do our students become great? So how do we help them to become big influencers and create passion in them? Do you have any suggestions for this?
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I wish I went to a university that said that, because that's such a powerful statement. And I think your students are very lucky that many universities would focus on the university first and the image, and they think that's how then the students get stronger. But actually, you're absolutely right. It's the students first. For me, there's many tips. I definitely would say the power of social media, digital marketing is becoming intertwined in everything we do. So I wouldn't lie to you and said if I didn't have my own following or my own platform, I wouldn't even be here today, right? I wouldn't probably get my job at Dior. So the social media world definitely does propel younger students and younger people to kickstart their career. But it's not necessarily being on the forefront of it, it's also how they can learn from it. So, there's only so much a university can provide during the lecture's time, right? You're only limited in the hours that you can give the student. But if you can encourage the students to say, only half of or quarter of the learning is done in this university, but the rest is done outside when you're at home, when you are also learning and revising, and when you're doing. So if you can provide them things, I'm not saying like me, but things like this, more opportunities to talk to people, learn from people. The fact that people are willing on a Saturday to all speak and learn is just incredible. If you can give them regular online, YouTube videos to watch, courses to watch, influencers to follow, and you advise them on things that they can do at home, that's, I think, very impactful, because most of my successes, not just in university, but in corporate life, have been of what I've done at home, not necessarily what I've done in the lecture or what I've done in my office. And that's just because I have the ability to kind of create ideas myself and learn on my own time. So I think that's the number one advice I would say. But also I would say definitely how they can basically learn from each other. I think if you can connect the students closer, even if it's virtually, and you create focus groups, you create mini groups, you make mini projects, and you incentivize through, maybe one day it could be through grants, etc., but you incentivize through peer-to-peer learning. It's a very powerful strategy today. I think a lot of the times lectures I went to in the past were too much focused where the teacher would talk. We would pretend to listen, write some notes, maybe some of us will fall asleep, close the books and then leave. So if you can really encourage workshopping, peer-to-peer discussions, and kind of group work, it really will help.
So one of our things that in the university is that we're going to teach you beyond the books. So that's exactly what you're saying. So thank you very much for that. But how do we help the students become influencers themselves? Do you think the university can do something to make the students themselves big influencers?
I think, yes. I mean, one thing Imperial College is starting to do is they're starting to, I'll give you two examples. One is using the university name to propel the student. So for example, Imperial is starting to do takeovers where the students take over the Instagram account and they share their life in the day of how they learn, how they grow. So those students are starting to get followed by other students and other people following the global Instagram account of Imperial College. And I thought that was really interesting because even the alumni will watch. And I will start to suddenly be like, oh, I'm a successful businessman, but I like that student. Let me contact that student and let me potentially hire them, right? So I think using, obviously, you have to then spend some marketing budget to grow the Instagram following or the social media following. It's not easy, but definitely that's one angle I would definitely advise, how you can use Facebook, even like this momentum of, could you, for example, host each week a student to explain their life, their goals, and talk for an hour, because then the other students will be like, oh, I actually learned a lot more about Kivana. Let me follow her on Instagram and let me talk to her. But could you also invite alumni? Could you invite other people, not just that are in the student body? So that's one way I think of letting the students be influencers, be lecturers in a way, can really be quite interesting. And the other thing is sort of training them on how to do digital marketing effectively, right? How to grow their own social media following, how to do ads. And the beauty of it is you don't need a lot of money. Like I grew my following at that time when I was in university, I grew to over 100,000 followers just from around $50 a month, because I did loads of strategies. I did some advertising, I did good content. And I think that can really help. So I think giving them kind of courses or digital workshops is really impactful. And even watching my digital courses online, hopefully that will help as well. Things like this.
Thank you, Akash. Akash, also while you are planning to build your own brand or a business of your own, it is really important to have a great team with you, because that's what drives success. So, would you like to tell us anything about what do you look for in your teammates while you are having that broad vision of building your own brand or a business?
Definitely, yeah. So for me, I really look for eagerness to learn and hunger to grow as the key priority. I've actually hired my team. I've got 7 girls working for me. I wanted to make a company that was built on diversity, inclusivity, number one. So I wanted women empowerment. I wanted all different ethnicities, and I've achieved that today. But I also wanted to make sure that all of them were, I wouldn't say it's always the right strategy, but I hired a lot of fresh graduates and people who haven't had the experience, because I wanted to say, I want to train you, and you will become an expert. But are you hungry? Are you eager? So I didn't look too much at the CV when I was hiring. I was looking for how much of a team player they are, how eager they are to work. Would they work until midnight some days? And would they work until, wake up at 5 a.m. some days? Because that's what I did at Dior. And I really believe in this work hard, play hard. Like with my team, we would do once a week, we would do a fun activity, a cooking course. We would go to escape rooms and we'll do fun stuff. But then sometimes we would work until 9 p.m. It was just part of the game and I wanted to make sure my team would be open to that. So that is something that I'm really proud of. Having said that, when you grow in your company, you might then need to start hiring more expertise, so people who are a lot more experienced to take it to the next level. Because after time, I can't train. I need someone like who's better than me in certain fields to take it over. So the good thing is today, I feel the cheapest and most affordable way for new businesses is to do what I did: start by hiring young, fresh, hungry, like even post students or young entrepreneurs, and then outsource expertise when needed. So if you need a project that needs something expertise, outsource it. It's much cheaper than internalizing and having a full-time employee. And usually that's a very good model for today. And the benefit is today there are so many freelancers, so many people just working on the side. So you can usually find many freelancers to outsource things to.
So some of the students are having questions. So I would just unmute them and could you please answer to them?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Hello.
thank you.
Hello. Is my voice audible?
Hi. It's a bit.
I think Shivam,
Is
your
my voice
network is
audible?
lagging. Could you please repeat your
Yes.
question?
Is my voice audible?
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you for giving me this chance to ask questions. And I'm Shivam Vyas, and I'm from BTech, Computer Science and Engineering. Currently, I mean, I was also an aspirant, just like you. I still am from India. That from the age of 17, I also wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I tried
I had an idea, but I won't say I failed, but I learned a lot. But still, I want to do these things. But my question is, it's multiple fold. That one, in India there is no shortage of talent. But even if that's so, I wasn't able to crack that up. So, I mean, like, I tried hard, and with my friends, even my friends, some of my friends are from the class. They are here in the meeting. We tried a lot, but we couldn't get it. But so, first question is, how to change the India's market perception, or how to pursue where Indian market is such that if some company sells the same product from the West coming in India, then Indian market accepts it as if, oh, it's actually great. But if somebody from India itself, an Indian company grows, they don't give that much importance. Secondly, if an Indian company, even if it's not big, it won't be able to survive. If they start out, they would instantly die. So why these things happen, and how can an entrepreneur like me, who is not, who I think in near future will not be able to go to foreign and then come back, what should I do? How should I pursue? And second thing, if there is no lack of talent in India, then why is India just a country who is just who does gig works, who just provides gig work services to companies from outside? So is there something that the education system, and in particular, I'll say this, that in India, colleges, I mean, I'm not just blaming this in this meeting. I don't want to take this in negative. I'm just saying there is literally business of education in India.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, if education system had to change to put out real efforts to bring out real people, what would they have to go through?
I think, okay,
Thank
so
you.
great questions. And I understand completely, because even if it's very different here, I think it's a lot harder and trickier in India. It's similar in one way in the UK, more so for me, it's even harder in terms of like racism here and stuff like that, to be appreciated as an Indian. So for my first question about the India market. So I think things are slowly changing, but whether it's in the next 5 years, who knows? So that's still too long for me. So I would first understand the specific industry, because certain industries are quite different, like beauty to tech to etc. But my first question would be, well, suggestion would be similar to what I did. I knew the pain point of having an Indian brand in London wouldn't work. So I managed to create it in America, but I never have lived in America. I don't have one person in America. And that's the beauty of today, where you can build a business somewhere in the world without having even visited that country, just because of the way we work with shipping samples and talking on the phone and Zoom calls, and then selling it in London. So it's actually odd, but the biggest retailer in London has now finally replied to us because we're big in America. So I'm not saying to reverse it, but if you're finding a struggle initially, there's nothing necessarily wrong with starting it in Singapore, in America, in UK, and then quickly bringing it to India, but not saying it's an American brand, but selling it, it's working very well overseas, it will work really well in India. So you're still very proudly an Indian brand. And we're someone who's saying, all our ingredients are from India. So we're saying it's made in the USA, but it's really an Indian brand. It's wisdom from India. So if you can find something unique and maybe something different that you're seeing, that in India, people want those overseas brands because they're exciting, they're new, they've got the glam. Could you position your brand as something from overseas coming in, but it's also born in India, but it's just had success overseas? That's one thing I would suggest. And the second thing I would suggest is don't give up. Like, it moves so much quicker than you think. Like, just try again and again. We've had, like, me and my sister had like 6 businesses that failed. And the one before was my dad actually had a hair care brand that we were working on, and we lost money. So if I, in that same year, if I said, look, I've done a hair care brand, it doesn't work, let's do something else, then I wouldn't be where I am today, right? So that's a part of business. You've got to just keep on trying. And remember that last month already was different than 3 months ago, especially with coronavirus and everything. Like, a lot has changed. So if you resume today, you might see some differences. And if you're finding it that the India market isn't really listening or isn't ready yet, you just got to work just as harder to educate and to push and to go to those towns or cities or retailers that are willing to at least listen a little bit, and start with them and start slowly with them. And then you go further out and further out. But use that energy that you feel to be the change and progress in India to change the way entrepreneurship is, because I 100% agree. It's not easy and it's wrong. But I think it also comes from a lot of the ancient, not ancient, I shouldn't say ancient, but a lot of the old traditions, and that a lot of people have, you know, like it's something that we're just, hopefully as now the new generation is coming to fruition, there's a lot of new young talent in powerful positions in big companies, a lot to change. Look at Fair and Lovely, it's now Glow and Lovely. That's a big move in India. So things are moving. You just have to work as hard and maybe also really assess the business. Perhaps the business is still not perfect. So try again to innovate and get a lot of feedback from your friends and family on what could be done better. But that's my main thing. And then in terms of the universities and stuff, I would say this, I would say it's everywhere. And I mean, colleges and stuff, they have to, it's very hard because they have to also be profitable. They have to also be a business. And I think we put a lot of stress and pressure on universities because they do well by some students and not well by others. And I think that's just, unfortunately, it's something that we can't change overnight. And I do feel like there has to be a sense of like more, not respect, but we have to sometimes like realize that the universities is one part, but we are the second part. And that's why it goes back to my point before in saying my university degree, I paid a lot of money for 4 years and it didn't help me one bit in my life, but actually it helped me the most. It sounds weird, but if I thought about what it would help me in terms of finding contacts, giving me jobs, it didn't help me. But it helped me be who I am today, the way I grew. Even the mistakes that they made me stronger. So just remembering that university is part of the puzzle, but you got to do all the hard work yourself. I didn't once gain what I am today from my Imperial College London, but I'm still very grateful for them because I'm still one student in 10,000, and they have to sometimes structure things in a very basic way, but they're willing to learn. Like looking at this, honestly, this university is incredible, Navrachana, because the way that they want to now when they always want to put you guys first, and they're listening, feedback, anything you feel is missing, and I'm sure they'll be implementing it. Whereas many universities in London and stuff, you can forget about it. It doesn't work, unfortunately, and you pay a lot more money, a lot.
So thank you so much, Akash, for answering all the questions and everything. It was a wonderful and insightful session for all the students. I believe they would have really gained a lot of knowledge from this. And Yogesh sir, now I would like you to take over. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you very much, Akash, for sharing your views. And I request the audience that if you have further questions, we can take 1 or 2 more questions. So if you have questions, please raise hand.
And if you have any private questions, you can always email Kivana to email me later, because I know a lot of people might want something specific, some advice.
Yeah, sure. I guess Twisha Rajpara had a question. Twisha, could you please unmute yourself?
Hi, Mr. Akash. My name is Twisha.
Hey, Twisha.
And I have one question. Who is your role model and which book has impacted you in a certain way?
It's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. My role model for sure is my father. I think I should have mentioned that, but he's a successful entrepreneur. So as you can imagine, that's probably where I get some of my a slither of his entrepreneurship I tend to take from him. Growing up, I think it was my curiosity, but his willingness to teach me. So I used to always, growing up, say, can I come to your big meetings? Can I sit on the corner? And he used to always allow me to come in, bring me in the corner, and then say to everyone, this is my son, he's 12 years old, he's just listening. And then at the end of the meeting, he used to then say to the big CEOs of the big boardrooms, can you spend 5 minutes with my son and just talk to him? So from a very young age, he gave me many opportunities that I know many wouldn't have that chance. I'm not saying it's something that it's easy to have, but I'm very grateful for those experiences. And it did teach me at a young age. I did 13 internships before I went to university every summer for 2 months, because my father would always like say, do you want to go for holiday or do you want to work? I was like, oh, I want to go to work. So I went to Warner Brothers for a summer. I did BMW, I did Airbus and the planes. I did so many random experiences that made me a lot more sure of kind of who I am and how eager I am on business. And that's kind of been my biggest role model. But now I've really understood that this world is a bit unfair. Many people have chances, many people don't. But with this social media and this internet, we can really access a lot of help and a lot of advice, a lot of mentors in many different ways. So I started to see that I've been given a lot in my life and people have helped me a lot, but not many people are helping others. And for me, that's something that I wanted to do at a younger age while I have the time and energy to help people, to give them also a chance. If I can connect some of you to some big brands like Dior, if I can connect you with some CV advice, or, you know, it's the least I can do to hopefully then be how my dad was to me, to other people, but not necessarily all about family and friends. It could be someone I've never met and never will meet in the world. But I got to leverage the fact that we can do this amazing Zoom call. So yeah, my dad is my role model for sure. But yeah.
Thank you so much. Basically, you have answered a lot of questions which I had, and even I was stuck up being a student and aspiring entrepreneur. So I was really confused that I should take on further with my business. Like I should work for it. I should not wait for it. So thank you so much, and this has made a lot of impact in my life. Thank you so much.
I'm so glad to hear. And I will say this. Remember, when it comes to your own business, you can do it while still having a corporate job. You know, your day is so long, so you could have the stability and some income from a normal job, 9 to 5, or even part-time.
Yes.
And then, but I don't think you need to necessarily, like, the risk is many people feel, oh, I need to now just work full-time on my business, but I'm not earning any money. So what am I doing? I'm wasting money. I'm not earning. Am I making a risk?
Right.
I think don't underestimate how powerful your brain is and how much you can do in a day. And if it means sometimes sleeping 3 hours in a day, it's okay, because this is the time to do it while we're young, you know?
Totally.
And it's a time to make mistakes and learn from them and grow from them, because now you might want to create a business in the beauty industry. And in 10 years time, you might want to make you might want to make a business in construction. Who knows? But that's okay. So just go with the flow. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. And if you have an idea that you think you can do well and your friends and family feel it could do well, and you're starting to get some interest from the market, pursue it.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Anyone else who has a question? Okay. So I guess thank you, Akash. It's already 4 and we are taking a lot of your time, but this really means a lot, you know, in this world where people are constantly want to pull each other down. Finding someone like you who strives to help us strangers also is really a great thing. Thank you so much for the session. Yogesh sir, you can continue.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kevna. And we have with us Dr. Mandira Sikdar, who is the coordinator of our PhD program at Navratna University. She is having many achievements, but because you are of a British Indian origin, I will just mention one of her achievement, that she was selected under the UK India Education Research Initiative. That is a teacher exchange program, and she was with University of Glasgow in May 2012 and Oxford University in June 2012. So I welcome you, ma'am, and I request you to please cite vote of thanks.
Sure. Thank you, Yogesh sir. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Akash Mehta, on behalf of the School of Engineering and Technology, Navratna University. I thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and to be the beacon for our audience, primarily undergraduate students. Very interesting topic we had today, how to train your mind to push boundaries and power your success. Very pertinent reflections we heard today, reflecting the remarkable journey that you have traversed, Mr. Mehta. And some takeaways from your lecture, which I thought are very important. You highlighted the joy of learning, that learning should be a continuous process, that age is nothing but a number, the importance of time management to effectively multitask, the importance of self-talk and empathy mapping. But the most important thing that you shared today with our audience was that we need to identify our unique traits and contributions. On behalf of Navrachna, once again, I thank you and wish you all the very best for your future ahead. Thank you, Mr. Akash Mehta.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Kevna, it's to you now.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much. Also, sir, Yogesh sir, I would like to thank you that you allowed me to, have this webinar for our students, and I would really would be thankful for that, and Akash for taking out time for us. Thank you
Instead,
so much. And
instead, I
Akash,
should be thankful to you, Kevna.
no, no, sir,
I'm thankful
no.
to you, Kevin.
And Akash, give my regards to Magdalene also. I was in continuous contact with her for making this happen, and she's such a nice person also. Thank you to her also for making this possible. Thank you
I
so
will.
much.
Very
Thank you,
happy.
Dinesh sir, who is the host of the event today.
Thank you, Dinesh.
So thank you for all the arrangements.
I just want to say a big thank you to the whole university, Kevana, for really making this happen. And it's
No
incredible
problem.
to see how hard you've worked to get this and just how willing you are to also share the stories to your other cohorts. Thank you so much to Mandra and Yogesh and also Dinesh. Really appreciate everything. And the journey doesn't stop here. We always continue learning and growing. And I'm always please reach out to Kavana to come to me whenever you need any help, any
Sure.
advice. You have me always in your life.
Thank you so much. Thank you,
Very
everybody, for attending. Everybody, every single person. Thank you so much.
Hey,
Bye. Bye, Akash. Have a good day.
you too. Bye, guys.
Yogesh, sir, should I end the meeting for everyone?
Yeah, yes, please. You can exit the meeting.